My name is Alara Finch, I'm 18, and I live in a city cradled by ancient, sleeping mountains. Asheville, North Carolina. It's a place where the air smells like damp earth and pine, and the streets hum with the rhythm of drum circles and the quiet scratching of artists' pencils in late-night coffee shops. I always felt like I was a part of that rhythm. My world was my camera lens, a way to capture the fleeting beauty of the world. The way the morning mist clings to the Blue Ridge peaks, the intricate patterns of a frost-covered leaf, the unfiltered joy on a musician's face downtown. Life was a collection of beautiful, quiet moments, and I was its devoted curator. I thought I knew how to spot authenticity, how to see past the surface to the truth of a thing. I was wrong. My world wasn't just shaken, it was fractured into a million pieces by a boy who was a master of illusions, a boy named Caleb Vance. I was 17 when I met him, just a few months shy of my 18th birthday. It was at a small gallery opening downtown, one of those places with exposed brick walls and wine served in little plastic cups. I was there trying to be brave, showing a couple of my photographs for the first time. I was pretending to study the other artist's work, but really I was just trying to control the frantic fluttering in my chest. That's when I saw him. He was older, maybe 20, and he carried himself with a quiet confidence that seemed so out of reach for me. He had dark, thoughtful eyes and a smile that didn't just show up on his lips. It reached all the way up to his temples. He was standing in front of one of my photos, a close-up of a raindrop clinging to a spiderweb. He was looking at it with such intensity, like he was trying to climb inside of it. He turned and saw me watching him, and instead of looking away, he smiled that incredible smile. He told me my work had depth, that I saw the world in a way most people didn't. He used words like composition and emotional resonance. For a girl who mostly just aimed her camera at things she found pretty, it was intoxicating. His name was Caleb Vance, and he was a student at the local community college. He seemed so mature, so worldly. He talked about literature and philosophy, and he listened, really listened, when I talked about my dreams of becoming a professional photographer. He made me feel seen. He made me feel like more than just a quiet, artsy high school girl. He made me feel like a masterpiece. We started spending all our time together. We'd go for drives along the Blue Ridge Parkway, the mountains unfolding around us like a giant, green map. We'd hike to hidden waterfalls, and he'd hold my hand, his thumb tracing little circles on my palm. He'd tell me I was special, brilliant, an old soul. At the time, I soaked it all in like a dry sponge. Looking back, I see the first cracks in his perfect facade. There was a possessiveness that I mistook for passion. He didn't like it when I spent time with my friends without him. He'd get quiet and moody, and I would find myself apologizing, trying to smooth over his strange sadness. Then there was the birthday countdown. At first, it seemed sweet, romantic. He had an app on his phone, a little clock ticking down the days, hours, and minutes until I turned 18. He'd show it to me with a playful grin. Soon, he'd whisper, not long now. My best friend, Chloe, was skeptical from the start. Chloe is the kind of friend who sees things in stark black and white, while I was always lost in the grays. She's fiercely loyal and has a built-in detector for nonsense that mine seemed to be lacking. It's a little weird, Alara, she told me one afternoon while we were sitting at our favorite coffee shop, the one with the mismatched mugs and the perpetually steaming espresso machine. The whole countdown thing, it feels predatory. I defended him, of course. I told her she didn't understand. That it was a romantic gesture, that he was just excited for us to be on equal footing, for the slight age gap to feel less significant. I told her he respected me. I actually believed it. The closer my birthday got, the more intense he became. His compliments started to have a strange edge to them, focusing more on my appearance. Tell me I had the perfect blend of innocence and something more, something he couldn't wait to discover. I felt a prickle of unease, but I'd push it down, telling myself I was being paranoid. Caleb was a skilled artist in his own right, but his canvas was people. He knew how to paint you into his world, making you feel like the centerpiece, the most cherished part of his collection. But I was beginning to feel less like a masterpiece and more like a project, one with a very specific completion date. The day it all fell apart was 2 days before my 18th birthday. The countdown clock on his phone was down to its final 48 hours. We had plans to go to dinner at a nice restaurant downtown, a sort of pre-birthday celebration. I spent an hour getting ready, picking out a new dress, doing my hair, wanting everything to be perfect. I was buzzing with a nervous energy, a mix of excitement for my birthday and a strange, undefined dread I couldn't shake. He was supposed to pick me up at 7. At 7:30, I was still waiting, my stomach tying itself in knots. I called him. It went straight to voicemail. I texted him. No reply. The perfect image of our evening began to crack and fade. An hour later, my phone finally lit up. It was a text from him, just one cold sentence. I can't do this anymore. You remind me too much of my ex. We're done. That was it. No explanation, no apology, just a digital guillotine severing everything we had built. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. To wait until the last possible moment, to build me up for months only to drop me from a great height right before the finish line. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a calculated act of psychological demolition. I just sat there, in my pretty dress, the text glowing on the screen like a toxic substance. The world I had so carefully curated through my camera lens, a world of beauty and quiet moments, had been invaded by something ugly and loud. The silence in my room was a roar. He didn't just break my heart, he made me question my own judgment, my own ability to see people for who they really are. He had found the one thing I was proud of, my artistic eye, my perception, and he had shattered it. The worst part was the phrase, "You remind me of my ex." It was so dismissive, so effective. It meant the problem wasn't him, it was me. It meant that every unique thing he had praised about me, my art, my soul, was just a reflection of someone else, a ghost I could never compete with. The next day at school was torture. My birthday was tomorrow, and instead of feeling celebrated, I felt like a ghost. I tried to keep it together, but my friends knew something was wrong. Chloe found me in the library, trying to hide behind a stack of books. When I told her what happened, her face hardened. "That low-life, cowardly piece of trash," she seethed, her voice a low hiss. "To do that right before your birthday, that's not just mean, Alara, that's evil." Her anger was a balm on my wounded pride. I told a few of my other close friends, needing the support, the validation that I wasn't crazy. Of course, word started to spread. Our small college community was a web of overlapping social circles, and Caleb was well known. He was the charming, older guy. I was the heartbroken, younger girl. But the story got twisted as it traveled. Soon, the narrative wasn't about his cruelty, it was about me. "She's so dramatic," I overheard a girl whisper in the hallway. They were only together for a few months. Another one said, "She's just gossiping to get attention, it's so immature." They saw me as the problem, the crazy ex-girlfriend who couldn't let it go. And Caleb, he played his part perfectly. When he'd see me in the crowded corridors, he'd give me a sad, pitiful little smile, as if I were the one who had wronged him. I tried to be the bigger person. I'd force a small, tight smile and say hello, just to show everyone that I was fine, that I was moving on. But every time, he would just look through me or give a condescending nod to his friends who would snicker. My world shrank. The hallways felt longer, the classrooms more crowded. I felt like I had a giant, invisible sign on my back that said damaged goods. He hadn't just broken up with me, he had successfully painted me as the villain in our story for everyone else to see. He was the artist, and I was just the spoiled canvas. My 18th birthday was the quietest I'd ever had. My parents tried their best, but the cloud of my public humiliation hung over everything. I was officially an adult, but I had never felt more like a powerless child. The problem wasn't just a broken heart anymore. It was my reputation. It was this web of lies and judgment that Caleb had spun around me, and I was trapped in the center of it, feeling every vibration, every whisper. I knew I had to do something, but I had no idea what. My nemesis wasn't just a boy who hurt my feelings. He was a master manipulator who had turned my own community against me, and I was completely, utterly alone. Except for Chloe. She was my only anchor in the storm, and she was about to hand me the one weapon that could burn his whole world down. The weeks after my miserable birthday were a blur of trying to reclaim some sense of normalcy. I threw myself into my photography, spending hours in the darkroom, the chemical smell a strange comfort, a scent of creation and transformation. I wanted to transform my pain into something tangible, something I could control. But every time I looked through my lens, I saw his face, his condescending smile. He had tainted my sanctuary. My attempts to solve the problem by being mature and rising above it were a catastrophic failure. Every polite hello I offered him in the hallway was met with a smirk or a cold shoulder, which only reinforced the narrative he was selling to his friends, that I was the desperate one, pathetically clinging to what we had. His friends, a pack of sycophants who orbited him like moons around a toxic planet, would openly snicker when I walked by. They made me feel small, insignificant. The problem was growing, metastasizing from a private hurt into a public humiliation. I started avoiding the main student common area, taking longer routes to my classes just to avoid the possibility of running into him. I was becoming a prisoner in my own life, and he was the warden. Chloe was furious on my behalf. "You can't let him do this, Alara," she'd say, her fists clenched. "You can't let him win." But I didn't know how to fight. He was older, more popular, and had successfully poisoned the well. Any attempt I made to defend myself was just more gossip, more proof of my supposed immaturity. My self-doubt was a constant, buzzing noise in my head. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe I had misread everything. Caleb had done such a masterful job of gaslighting me that I started to question my own memories, my own feelings. This was the first stage of rock bottom, losing faith in my own sanity. The turning point, the moment the universe decided to hand me a loaded gun, came on a crisp autumn Saturday. Chloe and I had decided to escape the campus drama and drive out to a scenic overlook on the parkway. We sat on the hood of her old, beat-up car, wrapped in blankets, watching the afternoon sun paint the rolling hills in shades of gold and orange. It was the first time I had felt a flicker of peace in weeks. "I need to show you something," Chloe said, her voice suddenly serious. She pulled out her phone, her expression grim. "I didn't want to before because I knew how much it would hurt you, but you need to see this. You need to know who he really is." My heart started to pound. A familiar, sickening drumbeat. She explained that she was still in a large group chat with a bunch of people from different social circles, a chat that Caleb was also in. He had apparently forgotten she was a silent observer in the background. "He sent this to the group a few days ago," she said, her thumb hovering over the screen. "He thought he was being funny. He thought he was performing for his friends." She pressed play. It wasn't a text. It was a voice note. And the first thing I heard was Caleb's voice, the same voice that had whispered poems to me, the same voice that told me I was a work of art. But this version was twisted, dripping with a venomous combination of arrogance and disgust. It was slurred, like he'd been drinking. "You guys want to hear something funny about my little ex, Alara?" he began, a cruel chuckle lacing his words. My breath hitched in my throat. The beautiful mountain view in front of me seemed to warp and dissolve. "She is such a brat. Seriously, the most immature little girl I've ever met. Crying because I broke up with her. Like, what did she expect?" Another voice, one of his friends, chimed in with a laugh. "Dude, I thought you were super into her." Caleb's voice dropped into a lower, more sinister register. The next words he said will be burned into my memory forever. "Oh, I was. You know what a girl like that needs? She needs to be pinned against a wall and slapped with a certain part of the male anatomy, just to put her in her place." A chorus of gross, masculine laughter erupted from the phone's speaker. My hands started to shake. The world tilted on its axis. He wasn't done. "Honestly," he slurred on, "she's lucky I didn't stick around. She acts like a child, throws a fit when she doesn't get her way. It's pathetic, crying to all her little friends. She's lucky, that's all I'm saying about her." He called me pathetic, immature, a brat. The same words I'd heard whispered in the hallways, but this time they were coming from the source. The public humiliation wasn't a byproduct of our breakup. It was his deliberate, ongoing project. The worst part was the violent, sexual nature of his comment. It wasn't just insulting, it was degrading. It stripped away my humanity and turned me into an object for his violent fantasies, a punchline for a joke among his friends. Chloe switched it off. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. I just stared at the mountains, but I couldn't see them anymore. All I could see was red. The sadness I had been drowning in for weeks evaporated, and in its place a cold, hard rage began to solidify in my chest. "He said that," I whispered, the words tasting like ash. "He said that about me." Chloe put her arm around me. "I'm so sorry, Alara, but you needed to hear it. This isn't about a breakup. This guy is dangerous." It was all there. The proof, the undeniable, recorded evidence of his true character. My mind started to race, the gears clicking into place. This was it. This was the weapon I needed. My initial plan was small, contained. I wasn't thinking about mass destruction yet, I was just thinking about survival. I asked Chloe to forward me the voice note. That evening, my hands trembling but my resolve firm, I sent it to my 3 closest friends, the ones who had listened to me cry, the ones who had defended me. Their reactions were immediate and furious. The next day at college, the atmosphere was different. My friends looked at Caleb with open disgust. They didn't just ignore him, they stared him down. A few of them, the braver ones, told other people. I showed the voice note to a girl from my art class who had been friendly with Caleb. I watched her face shift from curiosity to shock, then to revulsion. "Oh my God," she breathed. I had no idea. The whispers in the hallway started to change their tune. The seeds of doubt about Caleb's carefully crafted persona were being planted. It was a small victory, but it felt like the first breath of fresh air after being underwater for too long. But Caleb wasn't going to go down quietly. He realized something was wrong when people started avoiding him, when his usual crowd of admirers started looking at him strangely. He went into panic mode. He confronted Chloe, demanding to know why everyone was being weird. She, in her infinite and beautiful bluntness, told him exactly why. "Because they heard what you said about Alara, you creep." According to Chloe, he turned pale. He started denying it frantically. "I never said that, she's making it up, she's crazy." His desperation was pathetic. And that's when Chloe, my glorious, avenging angel of a friend, played the voice note for him, right there in the middle of the crowded student lounge. He denied it, so she simply pulled out her phone and sent the audio file directly to him. His denials sputtered and died. The recording of his own voice, his own vile words, echoed in the space between them. Chloe said he looked like he had been physically struck. He started to stammer, to backpedal, saying he was drunk, he didn't mean it, but the damage was done. The people around them had heard. He started to cry. Big, theatrical crocodile tears, right there in public. He wailed about how he was going to lose all his friends, how his life was being ruined, all because of a stupid joke. He tried to turn it around, getting angry at Chloe, the leaker, for betraying his trust. But no one was buying it. The tide had turned. Feeling emboldened, I took the next step. I made a formal complaint to the college's safeguarding office. I sat in a sterile, impersonal room with an administrator who had a forced, sympathetic smile and explained everything. I played her the voice note. She nodded, took notes, and assured me they would look into it. But days turned into a week and nothing happened. I'd see Caleb on campus, looking miserable and isolated, but he was still there. I heard through the grapevine that he'd told the administration it was a private conversation that was illegally recorded and shared without his consent. He was trying to flip the script, to make himself the victim of a privacy violation. The administration, terrified of legal drama, seemed to be dragging its feet. My victory felt hollow. It was then that I hit my real rock bottom. I had the truth, I had the proof, and it still wasn't enough. The system that was supposed to protect students was failing me. Caleb was still walking the same halls, breathing the same air. His social life was in tatters, yes, but he hadn't faced any real consequences. He had humiliated me, degraded me, and was now trying to use institutional bureaucracy to escape justice. I felt utterly defeated. All my efforts had only cornered the beast, not vanquished it. And a cornered beast is the most dangerous kind. I realized that if I wanted real justice, I couldn't rely on anyone else. I couldn't rely on the school. I couldn't even rely on the social shunning of our peers. I had to do it myself. I had to take everything from him. I had to salt the earth of his entire social world so that nothing good would ever grow there for him again. The quiet, artsy girl who loved capturing beautiful moments was gone. In her place was someone else, someone forged in the fires of humiliation and rage. And she was about to create her masterpiece. Sitting in my darkened room, the glow of my laptop screen illuminating my face, I felt a chilling sense of clarity. The frustration and despair of the past weeks had burned away, leaving behind a core of cold, hard purpose. The school wouldn't help me. The social fallout was temporary. Caleb Vance was a cockroach, and I knew he would survive this, scuttling back into the shadows and reemerging later to torment someone else. If I wanted true, lasting justice, I had to escalate. I had to move beyond our small campus community and detonate this bomb in the center of his entire universe. His universe, like so many people's these days, was Instagram. It was his public gallery, a carefully curated exhibition of his life. He had over 1,000 followers, a mix of college friends, high school acquaintances, family members, coworkers from his part-time job, and a host of girls who were clearly admirers. It was his stage, and he was the star. I was going to burn the whole theater down. My plan began to form, intricate and meticulous, like developing a complex photograph in the darkroom. I wasn't just going to post something on my own account. That would be too easily dismissed as the ramblings of a bitter ex. No, this had to be more subversive. It had to come from a place of anonymity and authority. It had to be undeniable. The first step was to create a new identity. I opened Instagram and created a new profile. I needed a name that was symbolic, something that spoke to pulling back a curtain and revealing a hidden truth. I settled on Artemis Unveiled. Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, the protector of young girls. Unveiled because I was about to rip the veil off Caleb's carefully constructed image. I chose a generic profile picture, a silhouette against a sunset, something anonymous but aesthetically pleasing. I wrote a simple bio. Sometimes the truth needs a little help getting out. It was perfect. The next phase was the most tedious, but also the most crucial. I navigated to Caleb's profile. His account was public, a testament to his arrogance. He wanted the world to see him, and I was going to grant his wish. I clicked on his followers list. One by one, I started to follow every single person on that list, all 1,217 of them. It took hours. My thumb ached from the repetitive tapping. With each person I followed, I felt a grim satisfaction. I was assembling his jury. I was gathering the audience for his public execution. I followed his mother, his sweet-looking grandmother who posted pictures of her roses, his younger sister, his boss at the coffee shop where he worked, his high school football coach, every single one of his smirking friends, and every girl who had ever left a heart emoji on his photos. I was building an arc of his entire social life, and I was about to flood it. While I did this, I started crafting the message. It couldn't be a rant. It had to be calm, factual, and devastating. I opened a document and began to write, choosing my words with the precision of a surgeon. To the friends, family, and followers of Caleb Vance, I began. You may not know me, but many of you know Alara Finch. For weeks, Caleb has been spreading a narrative that she is an immature, unstable, and dramatic person for being upset about their breakup. He has worked hard to paint himself as the victim and her as the villain. I am here to provide you with some context. I am here to provide you with the truth in his own words. I then embedded the audio file of the voice note directly into my plan, but I knew some people wouldn't or couldn't listen to an audio file, so I transcribed it, every single disgusting word. I typed out "she needs to be pinned against a wall" and slapped with a DK and stared at the sentence on my screen. It was vile. It was proof. Below the transcription, I added screenshots. Chloe had sent me pictures of the original group chat, showing his name, his profile picture, and the timestamp, proving its authenticity beyond any doubt. My message was a package of irrefutable evidence. My final paragraph was the kill shot. This is not about a simple breakup, I wrote. This is about a man who, behind his charming facade, harbors a deep-seated contempt and aggression towards women. This is about a man who feels entitled to degrade and humiliate a young woman for his own amusement and social gain. This is who he is when he thinks no one is listening. I am sharing this so that you all have the full picture, so that you know who you are friends with, who you are related to, who you work with, and who you admire. The truth is now unveiled. It was cold. It was clinical, and it was going to ruin him. Once Artemis Unveiled had followed everyone, I waited a day. I let their follow-back notifications pile up. Many of them, seeing a mutual follower in Caleb, followed me back out of curiosity. The trap was set. The moment of climax arrived on a Tuesday night. I was in my room, the house was quiet. My heart was a hammer against my ribs, but my hands were steady. I opened Instagram. I started a new group chat. Instagram has a limit on how many people you can add to a group at once, so I had to be strategic. I created over 30 separate group chats, each one named The Truth About Caleb Vance. Meticulously, I added his followers 32 at a time to each group. His mother was in a group with his college friends. His boss was in a group with his high school buddies. His grandmother was in a group with a dozen of the girls he was trying to impress. I mixed them all up, creating a chaotic cross-pollination of his entire life. Once all the groups were created, I took a deep breath. I copied my carefully crafted message, the one with the transcription, the screenshots, and the link to the audio file. And then, one by one, I pasted it into every single group chat and hit send. Send, send, send. 30 times over, I unleashed my digital weapon. Then I put my phone down, face down on my desk. I didn't want to see the immediate aftermath. I wanted to imagine it. I imagined Caleb's phone lighting up. Not once, but dozens of times. I imagined him seeing the notifications, the group chat titles, the cold dread that would wash over him. I imagined him opening one, then another, seeing his most private, ugly words laid bare for everyone he had ever tried to impress. For his family, for his boss, for his grandma. I imagined the frantic messages starting to pour in. His friends asking, "Dude, what is this?" His family members texting, "Caleb, call me right now." I imagined his phone becoming a shrieking, inescapable vortex of his own making. The confrontation wasn't me yelling at him in a hallway. It was his entire world confronting him at once, all through the tiny screen in his pocket. My final act was one of pure, symbolic annihilation. I went back to the Artemis Unveiled account. I posted the entire message, the audio file, the screenshots, as a public post. I tagged Caleb Vance in the post. Then I tagged the college, the coffee shop where he worked, and a few local community news outlets. Then I deactivated the account. Artemis had done her hunting. Her work was finished. The account vanished into the digital ether, leaving only its devastating message behind. The next day I went to college. I walked with my head held high. I saw people huddled in corners, looking at their phones, whispering. But this time, they weren't whispering about me. They were whispering about him. I didn't see Caleb that day, or the next. The rumor was that he had a complete meltdown. He had apparently thrown his phone against a wall, screaming and crying. He had lost it, completely. A week later, he was gone. He had officially withdrawn from the college. He had been fired from his job after his boss was flooded with messages about the post. His Instagram account was deleted. He had vanished, erased from the social landscape he had tried so hard to dominate. The resolution was swift and total. My nemesis was defeated, not by a system or by an authority figure, but by his own words, amplified and delivered by me. I had taken his ugliest secret and made it his defining public feature. The poetic justice was perfect. He had used the digital world to curate a lie, and I had used it to broadcast the truth. He had tried to make me small and invisible, so I made him the most visible he had ever been, for all the wrong reasons. The new normal was quiet. The tension in the hallways was gone. The whispers had stopped. I could walk through the commons again without my stomach clenching. I had my life back. I wasn't just Alara Finch, the heartbroken girl anymore. I was Alara Finch, the girl who fought back. I had changed. A part of my youthful softness had been burned away, replaced by something harder, more resilient. I looked at the world differently now, not with suspicion, but with a clearer understanding that some things that look beautiful on the surface are rotten to the core. A few months later, as winter began to settle over Asheville, Chloe and I were at the downtown art crawl. As we were leaving a gallery, I saw him. It was Caleb. He was getting into a beat-up old car, the kind he would have made fun of before. He looked diminished. His shoulders were slumped, the confident swagger was gone. He had lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked haunted. He didn't see me. He was just a ghost, a shadow of the person who had tried to destroy me. I didn't feel a surge of joy or triumph. I just felt a quiet finality, a sense of an account being settled. As we walked away, my phone buzzed. It was a message request on Instagram from a girl I didn't know. I opened it. Her message was short. "I don't know you," she wrote, "but I was one of Caleb's followers. I went on a date with him a year ago and he was a complete creep. I never said anything. Thank you for what you did. You're braver than you know." I looked at the message, then back in the direction where Caleb's car had been, and I smiled, a real smile, one that reached my eyes. My revenge wasn't just for me. It was for every other girl he had ever made feel small, and for every girl he would never get the chance to hurt again. My art had found its purpose again. My next photography project was a series I called Unveiled. It was a collection of portraits, but with a twist. Each photo was a composite, blending a person's smiling, public face with a subtle, almost hidden image that represented their secret struggles or hidden strengths. It was about looking past the surface. It was my story, told in light and shadow. The final piece was a self-portrait. In it, I stood in the mountains, my camera in hand, and in the reflection of the lens, you could just barely make out the faint, ghostly silhouette of a wolf. Artemis was still there, after all. Not a goddess of the hunt anymore, but a guardian. A quiet, watchful part of my own reclaimed masterpiece.